Ever feel like manifesting is just another item on your endless to-do list? What if I told you the problem wasn't with manifesting, but in how you're perceiving the entire process? So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to turn your manifestation game from a dreaded task into your most exciting daily adventure. Hello, fellow Voyagers. Welcome to the channel. My name is Jess, and I'm here to help you hack through the jungles of consciousness so you can discover the hidden treasures inside of you and embody your best life. If that sounds good, please subscribe. We'd love to have you join us here on the channel. Now, today, I want to get back to basics, right? I really want to shift you today on feeling like tired, exhausted, manifesting's hard, why isn't this working for me, with some simple reminders. Probably things you may have heard before, but I want to give you some new perspectives today. We're always juggling these parts of ourselves, right? We are a multi-experience creature being. We exist in both what people call the 3D and the 4D, right? Mind and body, imagination and physicality. Those are synonyms. It's helpful to look at it because it's all you. Right? Your experience is all you, just like you have 5 senses, right? Just because I can smell doesn't mean I am going to ignore what my eyes tell me, right? What I see. And so we have to remember that manifestation is a game of location. It is a game of location, 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 location. And if you haven't seen the video I made on location, check it out now. But I want to catch you up with the cognitive research. Right now, scientists are just beginning to discover that the same neurons that we use to navigate through our physical space are the ones that we use to move through abstract ideas like concepts, thoughts, everything in our mind. So when we are thinking, we are mentally navigating. When we are moving through the world, we are physically navigating. And the funny thing about this is that our imagination, our mind is pure imagination. And we could have a structure to that in any way we want. We could structure it, but what our brain is actually doing is that it's mimicking the structure of our physical reality. So just like we use navigation, space, location as our primary structure of our physical reality, right? We have streets and roads and states and countries, and we talk about traveling, we use traveling analogies. That's how we manage our physical existence. Like, where are you? Our imaginations have kind of naturally, it sounds like, evolved to use that same structure. Because, right, how do you whittle down imagination into a structure? How do you give something that is limitless and structureless and timeless and spaceless structure so that it can then be leveraged? And the interesting thing is that our brain is actually using navigation. And what the scientists are finding right now is that even in therapeutic uses, when people use navigation to describe what they are feeling in their mind, if they're saying, I'm going around in circles, it helps with communication because we're all familiar with location. And so we take this part of ourselves, this 4D part, our imagination, our mind, right? And we've kind of mimic it. We use our physical reality, our 3D, our physicality. We mimic space within our imagination. And so I want you to remember that using navigational terms is really helpful for us to describe an imagination, to describe this limitless potential that we have in imagination, to narrow it down into a framework we're all familiar with, that we all use on a daily basis, right? We're all using navigation. We go places. But I want you to remember this about yourself. I want you to remember this about yourself. You exist in these 2 different spaces. Now I'm separating them to speak about it, right? We exist in imagination and we exist in physicality. And a lot of the things that the manifestation coaches and the reality creation coaches talk about is that they're like, everything is here now, right? It's all here now. And it's hard to get on board with that because you can look out into your physical 3D space and say, I don't see it. Where is it? What are you talking about? And the waters get very muddy when we confuse these two aspects of our experience. Because we are our imagination, we also are our body. We exist in physical space, right? These are just like our senses. I have sight, sound, touch, smell, all of these 5 senses, that is all who I am. You are imagination and your physicality. And so when these coaches make these huge claims, and it's hard to wrap our brains around, well, yeah, but I exist, how is that possible? How am I a creator, or all that is, if I can't just point my finger in my physical reality and say, that bird turned into a marshmallow, and it doesn't happen. So I think how I want to get you, I want to clear up some of these beliefs first. I want to get us all on the same page to make this process fun. Because just like having 5 senses, right? It's fun to experience things through multiple senses at a time, but it's also fun, and it's okay, and there's nothing wrong with experiencing something in one sense, like hearing something, but then not seeing it, smelling something, but not tasting it, right? It doesn't negate one sense over another if you just experience it in one sense and not the other, right? Everything you are experiencing in your senses is real. It's a real experience. It's real data. So I want you to take that analogy of your senses and apply it to these kind of theoretical arenas of who you are. Your imagination, aka your mind, and your body, your 3D, your physicality, right? And let's drop it into the pool of now space, location, because both of them, like I said, one is mimicking the other. Your imagination is mimicking the spatial qualities. This is why when you say, oh, I'm a billionaire and it feels really far away, it's not a place on your cognitive map that you're going very frequently. Meanwhile, your triggers, the things that oh my God, I'm instantly there, right? I'm instantly triggered. I went from 0 to 100. Your triggers are those well-worn pathways on your cognitive map where you have trampled down time and time again, going somewhere instantly. The quality of our imagination, of our mind, has high spatial volatility. High spatial volatility. Think about it. If I say you're in Paris right now and you're standing at the base of the Eiffel Tower and you're looking up and it's so high and you feel a spring breeze and there's the scent of croissant in the air, like you're there. You honestly cannot help. It's so volatile. Our imagination, our mind is so volatile. You literally could not help but go there right now and see that in your mind's eye as I was talking about it. So this is like one of your senses. This is a concept. You can think of this as one of your natural capacities to have this high spatial volatility, right, of imagination, where you can literally be somewhere in an instant. Meanwhile, let's look at our physicality, right? What is the experience? The experience to me, the spatial volatility is lower. It has a lower spatial volatility. What does that mean? It means that it takes time to travel places, right? There's time. We have that time element of I have to get in the car and go somewhere, right? It's the place of process. It is the place of process where in our imagination, we can go right to outcome, right? And that's what we're told to do. Go to the end. Neville never said, go through all these extensive processes and work really hard on it until you get it, right? And so a lot of this advice that we're getting seems to conflict between these two spaces we are inhabiting. One where we can instantly be somewhere, and one where it takes time and effort and routine and practice, right? That's not to say that things in the 3D can't change quickly. They can change very quickly. But not to the degree. I don't experience that type of spatial volatility in my 3D reality, right? It feels like things move a little bit more slow, right? You got to chip away. You got to do a process. You got to work at it. That's what it feels like if you were to take the element of what it feels like. And so we confuse these. When someone tells us, oh, it's already yours. We're like, yeah, but where is it? Then we're looking throughout our 3D eyes. And we're looking in that low spatial volatility space of physical reality and saying, yeah, but where is it? What happens is we have these two qualities of ourselves, just like we would have two different senses, right? Sound and taste. We've got imagination and we have physicality. And the advice that we hear, the things that we hear are all, they're confusing both of them. And it muddies the waters. It muddies the waters because ultimately, what we do is we orient by location. We orient by location. So but we're doing this in both of those realms. Remember, you're doing it in a high spatial volatility space and you're doing it in a low spatial volatility space. And so what we want to do is start to leverage. The way we make this fun and exciting and not like a process is that if it feels heavy and burdensome like a process, it's because we are relying too much on our 3D physicality, our body, that we're basing what we know about ourselves in space, in location, we're basing it on that. When you come on board, when you can lean into that high spatial volatility, you can literally bounce around different states of consciousness, knowing yourself to be that. And when we let go of, I'm just imagining this. This isn't really real. This isn't really real. I believe that what you see in imagination is different versions of you. It's looking through their eyes. And so it's very much as real as your physical 3D reality now. So let's not confuse these. Don't confuse these aspects. This is the first thing I'm telling you. Consider them to be specialized arenas where you can leverage, you can have fun with, you can really get on board with being more masterful with your creations. And orienting exclusively from, we switch to imagination. Neville told a story of, if I was locked up in a jail, I would feel free because I could shift all of my perception to my imagination and imagine myself free, Visualize myself free. So I want you to remember this. I want you to remember that you have two sides of yourself, just like you have 5 senses you can rely on. If you lose one, if one goes offline or it's not working the way you want it to, you lean on the other ones, I want you to be able to toggle between these two aspects of yourself. One that's a little bit slower, more continuous, more consistent. The other that's quick, fast, there, instant, yes, now, got it. Because, Neville himself, he had some really interesting quotes. He talked about appropriation. Appropriation, and what is this? Appropriation, I looked it up, it's to take possession of something, to take possession. Appropriation is what we're doing in imagination, We are assuming ourselves to be something. We are claiming ourselves something to be true for ourselves ahead of seeing it, feeling it, sensing it in the 3D, through our body. And in doing that, we might have the sensation of imposter syndrome. You know what imposter syndrome is? It is when those neurons in your brain, those navigational neurons, when you're going a different place in your mind. You're appropriating who you want to be now before you think it's actually appropriate, You're appropriating it. You're taking possession. And imposter syndrome comes from that feeling you get of going to a new place on your cognitive map, Again, the places you visit a lot, you have well-worn neural pathways to those places. When you go somewhere new, when you're in a new role, when you're claiming something to be true for yourself, you get imposter syndrome because of the neural circuitry in your brain. You're going somewhere in your brain you've never gone before, You're lighting up new neurons. You're changing the electrical activity. You're doing something new in your brain, and initially it feels foreign. That's the feeling, because this is all about space. It's all about space and location. It's all about space and location. I keep coming back to that. And so appropriating it feels a little bit like I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here. But that's the fun part. This is the fun part. A couple quotes from Neville. He said, "Your inner acceptance must become an intense, unalterable conviction which transcends both reason and intellect. So essentially he's saying it must transcend your reason and intellect, right? What you are seeing and feeling in the 3D, it has to transcend that. It has to transcend. Just like when a millionaire knows they're a millionaire, they know they're a millionaire. If they look at an empty bank account, if their bank account was total zeros, but they knew that their ideas were so good and they were always a millionaire and they highly identified with being a millionaire, they wouldn't suddenly orient through that empty bank account and suddenly think that they're poor. They would know like, oh, well, my stocks are going to go up and everything's going to be fine. Like, or if they found themselves, if they were traveling in their car and they ended up in a bad part of town, maybe, in the ghetto, they wouldn't look around the ghetto and suddenly think, oh, I live here now. I am impoverished. I live in a shanty. They don't do that because no matter where they are in their imagination, in that high volatility space, they know themselves to be a millionaire. Like they just know that about themselves. They're not fazed by circumstances. And what happens is so many of us, we forget that high volatility space of ourselves, our imagination. And we look at circumstances, and that is how we orient ourselves, our success. That's how we judge, where we are, what we are doing. And we forget that we have this other capacity, our imagination, right? And you'll catch yourself doing this, when it feels forced and when you feel like you're trying to do it on purpose to visualize and believe you are something. It can feel forced, but when you catch yourself doing it naturally, like if you're trying to decide whether to go to a party or not, right? You're trying to decide, you're thinking it through, and you're running all these simulations in your imagination of, well, if I went, then, Bob's going to be there and I don't really want to talk to Bob. Or, if I went, well, what if that other guy like Sam is there? I really like him. I'd love to see him. And you're simulating all of these different imaginal scenes, and you do it so naturally. You do it so naturally because you believe that those imaginative scenes are the real outcomes that you would experience if you went to the party, right? That's what you do. You erase that, like, when you're simulating from a very organic place, aka using your imagination to, future cast what's going to happen. It's very organic. It's very effortless, right? And then you come to a decision, right? You feel, you judge, you're actually running the simulation. You're going to a place. It's a place. You're in the right place. You've made the right decision when you get that feeling hit. Because our emotions are our GPS indicators, right? That's how we know where we are. That's how we know where we are. And we decide on things by how they feel. We know we're in the right location. Again, it comes back to location by how we feel. And so what you're being asked to do is go somewhere new. That's what manifesting is. I have a desire. I want to go somewhere new. And I want to be somewhere new. I want to be somewhere new. Neville's other quote that I want to share with you: you have but one gift that is truly yours to give, and that is yourself. There is no other gift. You must press it out of yourself by an appropriation. So quit trying to deny who you really are. Quit trying to deny who you really are. When you get a desire, why manifesting feels like such a process is that we're putting too much importance on 3D, right? On this aspect of ourself that has this low spatial volatility that feels very slow and process based, when we could be there right now, we could be there. Remember that both of these elements of yourself they're real experiences, just like with your five senses, right? They are all real experiences. When you taste, you touch, when you hear, when you see, when you feel, those are real experiences for you. And so always never forget, you have these two elements of yourself. And so if you find yourself in a really crummy circumstance, don't be a hostage to it, right? In the desiring of wanting to be somewhere different. You already are it. That is your indication that a pathway has opened up, and all you need to do is move to the location. It's a place. It's a place where this already exists. It's already true. And I know you've heard this 1,000 times, but what is different is that I don't want you to leverage and see this process as a process. I want you to see it as a location. See your outcome, your desired reality, who you want to be, how you want things to be, right? Being the millionaire, living with your SP and being happy. I want you to see them as a place, They are a place. Let's infuse that low spatial volatility, that constancy, that permanence, that physical permanence that we feel in our 3D. Let's infuse that into your desired end. Your desired end. It's a place. It is a place. It is a real place because it is a place in your mind, in your brain, literally. It is a location in your brain, in your neural circuitry that you get to go. You get to go and appropriate it, take possession of it ahead of it showing up in your 3D. And that is the fun part. When you do that, it's like a secret. It's like a secret. Like a surprise party. You're like, oh my gosh, this is going to happen and nobody knows it, right? When you see children using their imagination to be an astronaut or a firefighter or a chef, they're doing this effortlessly. They're stepping into this identity and having fun with it and playing with it, right? And they don't care whether it's true or not. They don't care. They're not relying on that. This is what you're being called to do with manifesting, right? You have that desire come up and is essentially a flag, a location saying, come here, over here, over here, over here, come here. Come here where you have this. Because that's the truest version of you. When you feel the desire, not only do you have it, but you're being asked to become it now. You're being asked to appropriate, take possession of this new quality, of having this thing, of being this person. And when you don't, it feels shitty. It feels shitty, right? When you deny yourself, what you're doing is essentially you're holding yourself hostage. You're not letting yourself go there. And you're making every excuse in the book to say, yeah, but the money's not in my bank account. And yeah, but I'm not really that yet. And you're binding yourself up in the 3D and your physicality when you've been invited, you've been commanded. If you watched the heart versus brain decision making, you've literally gotten the divine command over here. Hey friend, over here now. Be this now. It's the truest expression of who you are in a particular location. And thinking about this as location, to me, it relieves the pressure, right? Because I don't worry about Philadelphia disappearing, right? I don't worry about Philadelphia deciding to move on there's a constancy in place, of a real place in space, like Philadelphia, where if I don't make it there, I still know Philadelphia is going to be there 2 weeks, a year, 10 years, 100 years from now. I know it's going to be there. And I want you to know this about your outcomes. When they say go to the end, right? So many of us, we hit our mark, we can close our eyes, visualize, go there to where it is true for us, but then we can't maintain it because we open our eyes, after a few minutes of visualizing, and we go back to letting our physicality, that low spatial volatility quality of ourselves, take over. We say, well, I'm still in the same place, the same things are happening, I don't have it, right? And then we talk ourselves out. We orient by that location where potential has been activated in your awareness. So this is where the fun part comes in appropriating. So there's just one question I want you to ask yourself to make this fun again. This is a longer video than I thought. Are you a pirate or a hostage? Are you a pirate or a hostage? Are you, when you find yourself bound and gagged by, yeah, but this is true, this is really where I really am, yeah, but I can't do this and it's not who I am quite yet, like I'm getting there, it'll be in the future, like waiting, saying, where is it? Those are all situations where you're bound and gagged. You're bound and gagged by your own inability to lean into this quality of yourself that is all about moving in an instant. Bing, bang, boom, bing, bang, boom. Lean into that. Use that, right? If you have a blindfold on and you can't see, you use your ears, right? You lean into another quality of yourself, another experiential quality like your five senses. Remember, these are two experiential qualities. One of kind of the slower, matter, hard, concrete, constant, time-based experience of your physicality, your 3D, and one of the fast, instant, instantaneous nature of your imagination. That bang, bang, done, bang, it's done, bang. Because that's all you're being called to do, is appropriate it. And so are you bound? Are you a hostage? Or are you a pirate? What do pirates do? Pirates are pirates no matter what, right? No matter what ship they come across, they're going to pillage. They're going to pillage. No matter who they come across, they are a pirate. They don't change, right? They appropriate. They take possession. They take possession of it. And this is what, going back to that millionaire example, ending up in the ghetto or looking at a bank account, right? They see through a lens that they're always going to be that. They already are that. And they see everything through the lens. And by doing like when you go to the store, you're naturally, you're in the right place when you're naturally simulating, seeing in your imagination from that perspective. You're in the right spot. You will organically see from that lens when you're in the right location. Whereas, like I said, that's what happens with millionaires. It doesn't matter where you drop them. They're still in their mind. They're a millionaire in their imagination. They have appropriated that thought about themselves. They've appropriated it. It doesn't matter if you take all their money away. They're still going to be a millionaire again, right? They're still going to come up with some interesting business scheme and gain their millions back. They're just like that. Some of them are like that. I'm not saying all of them are generalizing, but it's that knowingness of themselves in that high spatial volatility space. They don't just have a bad day and forget that they're a millionaire. And this is what we do with our end. Neville says, go to the end. Go to the end. It's not about, do all this process. So free yourself from so much process. Know that your end state is a place. It's not going to go anywhere. So if you hit your mark, great. If you don't, you just go back there. You just go back. And the more you appropriate, the more you pirate this and free yourself from those binds and gags of what you're seeing in 3D, the more you do this and appropriate it, the more and more you're going to start simulating from that perspective of being the person you already want to be, having what you already want to have, right? Because you're occupying the space in imagination, which is where it all comes from. That's the thing. It's where it all comes from, but we're orienting via another sense, right? Another experiential sense of the 3D. We're orienting from the 3D, and this is why we say, well, where is it? Why don't I have it yet? Where is it? Because where are you? Where are you, my friend? That is the big question. It's not who you are. Who you are comes from where you are. If you're on a pirate ship and you're wearing an eye patch, and you're telling the story, I'm a pirate, then your behaviors are going to reflect that, right? Your identity is going to reflect that. So you go to the place. It's not who you are. Everyone talks about identity. Identity comes out of your location. Go to the location, inhabit the location in your imagination, because that's where it comes from. It's all mind. It comes from mind. Go there. Go there, use that, and have fun with it, just like a child does. Like I said, have fun with it like a child does. Know the surprise that you have been called. You've got the desire. You've been called to have fun with this. You have been called to let go of the process. Let go of the process. There's either you're there or you're not there. That's really as simple as it is. Getting lost in the desert of trying is serving the 3D, serving your 3D, trying to get somewhere that you can only really accomplish in imagination first. You have to know yourself in imagination as that. You have to orient and locate and appropriate that place where it's true for you, that place where it is real, that place where, yeah, this is me, who I am supposed to be. Because when you don't, that's when, again, we get confused, we get muddied, we get confused. So this was a really long one today. I know it was helpful for you. If you need a tool to help you recondition your mind, if your mind is kind of a place that is painful, hard, critical, recondition it. Form a new habit. Grab that tool below. It's always available to you in the description box. And thanks for watching, guys.